On a chilly March afternoon in London in 1991, Princess Diana, may she rest in peace, was a featured guest at a significant event. On that day, a lead-lined wooden box was officially encased in the wall at the front entrance of Great Ormond Street Hospital for Children, known, and you gotta love the English, known as Gosh. The box was a time capsule, a familiar feature of dedication ceremonies everywhere. The princess had been the past president of the hospital, so she was a natural choice. So I couldn't find any information about when this time capsule was supposed to be opened, 50 years, 100 years. Apparently no one kind of wrote that down. The content of the capsule was determined by two British kids who won the honor of filling it out. I don't know what the competition was, but they won it. And they were asked to select what would go in the time capsule. It would suggest what was current to know about England in 1991. Well, it so happens this even came up because Gosh was again in the news. They had decided on a capital campaign, we know all about those, to build a new wing on the hospital, which the architects informed the leaders that they had to rip through the very area where the time capsule was buried by the late princess. So while it may have been the case that the capsule was meant to remain in the hole for another 50 years, they exhumed the time capsule and opened it up. The box was damp, and so were the contents, but more than that, the objects were underwhelming. Okay, given they were kids, but still. A pocket television, a solar-powered calculator, a collection of British coins, some tree seeds in a bottle, a snowflake hologram, a sheet of recycled paper, a European passport, and a CD made by Kylie Minogue. I said, these are the values of these kids? These were the objects that inspired them? I mean, I don't know, I'm a techie. I don't know what the heck a pocket television, I mean, I know what it is now. 1991, I was not a kid, I was 37. I'd never seen a pocket TV. A sheet of recycled paper, a little underwhelming. And with all due respect, when I read this, I thought, who the heck is Kylie Minogue? I had no idea who she was. I had to do some research, and the only thing that came up, she created one of the most famous earworms in the history of pop music. Ah, na, na, ah, na, 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 can't get you out of my head. And then you can't understand any other word. Virtually it is impossible. Maybe it's my age or it's just my temperament. I haven't spent much time. Anyway, that was considered, of all the music, Kylie Minogue. Unearthing a time capsule, that should be exciting. That should be a chance to discover mysterious items carefully chosen long ago, curated as examples of a past era. Unfortunately, these time capsules rarely live up to the excitement. For those who bury them, time capsules are a gift across decades to a distant future. But it's rarely received in that way. A self-described enthusiast of time capsules, see, well, on the internet you can find anyone, Matt Novak suggests 99% of the time capsules will remain completely boring to the people who open them. Then another guy, a professor at the University of Iowa, Nick Yablon, says the most common word used in reaction to opening a time capsule is disappointment. And then Novak says time capsules are both hopeful and selfish. Hopeful because they show a belief that someone someday will find them and that those people will care about what's inside. You know, I read and reread Novak's commentary on time capsules. It resonated with me and also felt somewhat discordant. I didn't think that there was anything selfish about hoping people would care about the contents. Creating a time capsule requires a kind of quiet confidence. It demands that we believe in a future we cannot see, that we trust in the goodness of people we will never meet, that we invest in continuity despite all evidence of disruption and change. It implies a belief that our lives matter, as if our voices deserve to be heard, as if the future will be interested in our particular corner, that our experience will amount to something invaluable. I think that means a time capsule could really be a great Jewish thing that could reflect our way of looking at the world. In fact, there is this marvelous example. If you've never heard of it, I'm really happy to share it with you. During the Holocaust in Warsaw, there was a Dr. Emanuel Ringelblum, who organized an underground archive in Warsaw with the express purpose of documenting the reality of Jewish life under Nazi occupation. Ringelblum said he was gathering these materials and documents to remember and raise up the Jews in Poland. He planned to gather all the disparate items, and then after the war, use it as the basis for a people's history of how the Jews of Warsaw survived. That was the plan. But as things continued to worsen for the Jews of Warsaw, Ringelblum soon came to fear that Hitler's plan to kill the Jews was not hyperbolic. In January 1942, Ringelblum met Shlomo Bajler, who had escaped from the Chelmo concentration camp. Bajler made his way to Warsaw, where he provided detailed testimony to Ringelblum about the systematic murder he witnessed daily. His account was one of the first eyewitness testimonies about the Nazi extermination process to reach the Warsaw Ghetto. Ringelblum was, of course, shaken to his core, now believed the Nazis were going to destroy the Jewish people, that it might well be that the Jews would be destroyed forever. He couldn't bear the thought that our profound historical presence, that his own wife and son, the whole of the people of Israel, would be erased, forgotten, washed away in the storm. He had a number of people that were helping him, and one of them was Gustawa Jareka, who said before her death, and wrote it down, and it found its way to the archive, "One can lose all hope except the one that the suffering and destruction of this war will make sense when viewed from a distant historical perspective." Ringelblum decided to name the project Oneg Shabbat, which was, of course, the joy feast after Shabbat. As they were starving, there was something about the image that so moved him and moved all the people that were involved. It was a message. We were here. Don't forget us. Pay attention to what we had and how it shaped who you have become. There's never been a time capsule to equal its value or to achieve its exalted level of poignance. It is one of the great achievements of Jewish history, a time capsule that somehow contains us all. The Holocaust Museum in Warsaw has much of it, and some of it's also at Yad Vashem. Well, my guess is you might know the rest of the story. These archivists, when they knew the end was literally coming, they decided to take all the stuff that they collected. I mean, anything from posters of dance recitals in the Warsaw Ghetto, readings, plays, discussions, game nights, Jews who were starving continued to live a life of meaning and purpose. And so they took a few metal boxes and 3 of those large metal milk cans, and they filled it with the documents and buried them. Ringelblum and his wife, child, were taken to Auschwitz. But what's amazing, and so many of the people who participated in Oneg Shabbat, but what is astonishing, 3 people survived from the Oneg, out of hundreds, 3 people survived. And they went looking for where they were buried. They found a couple of the metal boxes. They found 2 of the milk canisters, but the 3rd was never found. Even in the face of Nazi and Polish brutality, they collected the playbills, the food rationing cards, the syllabi of adult learning courses. All this stuff, all these memories, they're a challenge. I don't imagine that we're standing on a cliff. Like many of you, despite what's happening in the news, I have to say, I feel secure. This country has not yet collapsed from its ailments, even if there are days that bring us close to the edge. There is good news every day for the Jews of this country. But let's just say we had to fill the milk cans. What would a great Jewish time capsule contain from a time and place so radically different from Ringelblum's? What statement would we want to make? The chosen objects would have to have meaning for us, but they would have to be meaningful 100 years from now. Imagine a group of artifacts that were fully resonant, that would bind up past, present, and future. They would have to remind us of our own unique history and convey a sense of our particular destiny. Our world may not exactly be coming to an end, but we are surely struggling with enormous concerns about Jewish life, safety, and continuity. What then should go into a Jewish time capsule? Well, I can start by saying what shouldn't go. For instance, no cute or silly objects. No Kylie Minogue-style Narishkeit. The objects have to reflect resiliency and commitment to a shared history. What I'm describing here is a time capsule of the mind, a metaphor to address what we could agree are eternal verities about our community and our world. They must exemplify respect for our struggles to keep the faith and to continue the sacred tradition of learning. So I have a couple suggestions here. Well, I'll just show you. I want to thank Eileen Brooks for packing this. Now, this is not the time capsule per se, if we would decide. It's a cardboard box. Would not last long. But what's inside, that's what counts. So, all right. The first object, and I want to thank our executive director for on loan bringing it out. Many of you recognize this? Oh yeah, it's in the back of my sock drawer. Oh yeah, it's in a shoebox that I keep in the closet. Little Torah, let me hold you tight. Generations of kids have gotten these for consecration as they started their Hebrew studies. Most kids have never even opened it. Kind of stays. And just to let you know, if you want to go home and check yours out, it actually is. It's not calligraphed. It's printed out, but it's the whole Torah. It's tiny, teeny, tiny. But if you have good eyes, you can at least see that it's the real thing that's been copied. It's a reminder to Jews across time and place that without studying of the text, without dedication to learning, we lose our bearings and our claims to exceptionalism. The data consistently show that American Jews, Jews love to brag about this stuff, and I'm just going to do it too. American Jews have among the highest college attendance and graduation rates of any religious or ethnic group in the United States, with college education being a central tenet to our identity and values, to learn as Jews. 80%, 80, of American Jews have attended at least some college, compared to 60% of the general American population. In fact, there's only one ethnic group that has a higher percentage. Can anyone guess what ethnic group has a higher percentage? Call it out. Chinese Americans. Anyone else? Korean? The highest percentage is Hindis. Hindis are a few points higher than the Jews. But that's cool. We are blessed to share the space. This statistic is not just for hyperbole's sake. It reflects a value for learning that dates back 2,000 years. And we would be wise as a people to honor it and raise it up. We've had a rough go of it on college campuses for the past few years, and it behooves us not to retreat. We've worked too hard to gain access to the world of learning. The idea is to expand our consciousness, to make ourselves larger, to increase the interior space of the self. That's Torah. That's Torah in the broadest sense. So the little Torah is a reminder to those who would open up that box. And now, this, yes, a piece of matzah. And if you look closely, it's a piece of everything matzah. As a kid, there wasn't even everything bagel. So why are you saying, manish tana? Why would you have a piece of matzah in a time cap? First of all, it would last. I don't imagine mold, fungus, nothing will grow. No animal will eat it. It's interesting, Passover, now we're going stats again, over 60% of American Jews claim one of the only things they do as a Jewish act is to have a Passover Seder. Even if it lasts 25 minutes, it's a matzah ball and chicken soup. There's a sense that there's something important about it. More Jews have a Seder than light Hanukkah candles. That's how significant it is. Why is it? Because the message of Passover is so significant. The messages, they make us listen. They pierce our hearts. The Seder compels us to sit down together and symbolically lean into our history as a people and then find analogs for where we are right now. How many times have we said it? Once we were slaves, now we are free. And then the tagline, until all of us are free, none of us are free. We're talking about Jewish compassion and our sense of justice. It's a message easily lost in the postmodern world. But we can't afford to lose our ethical mooring. Because if we do, the prophetic messages we've carried into the world will be throttled and silenced like a strangled bird. The Jews are the canary in the coal mine of democracy. We have obligations. So why did I choose an everything matzah? Not for whimsy's sake, but rather to exemplify change. Our tradition morphs all the time. We are influenced by other cultures and ways of thinking. We are not a community mired in the "we always did it this way" mentality. Let those who might find this time capsule 100 years from now remark about how cool the Jews were in 2025. We took the essentials of bagels and mapped them onto matzah. But let them also remark that no matter how you dress it up, it's still the bread of affliction. Lachma anya. Sometimes matzah is always matzah. Next, this is a map of current Jewish population. You can't see it, but I'll just hold up this wonderful map that Eileen Brooks found. So I want you to think about, even if you showed this map to your relatives 100 years ago, they would look at it, there'd be over 40 countries that did not exist, or countries with different names. And then they would look and say, 200 years ago, they would look and say, what? There's Jews in America? Why would they go to America? There's nothing in America for the Jews. There's no tradition, there's no nothing. Just anything you might have remembered watching Gene Wilder and Harrison Ford. It is outrageous that there were so few Jews here then, and now we're a huge population by Jewish standards. 12 million Jews, it's amazing. Amazing. But we really are tiny. And I wonder, 100 years from now, will we still be thriving in the United States? Will there be a mass exodus to Israel, Uganda, Shanghai? Will they look at the map and shake their heads at the Jews as a perpetual motion people? Will they be reassured that we've managed to settle down, well, even in places where we have been imperiled? My wife, who likes sometimes to doom scroll, said, I wonder what language our grandchildren's grandchildren will speak as their native tongue. It's a really dark question. And we know what we want. I think we know what we want the obvious answer to be. But the fact that Jews ask that question is significant about who and what we are. The next object. Well, yay. The flag is an astonishing fact of our lives. If you had said 200 years ago to your ancestors, guess what? We had this moment arrive where we had our own state. Amazing. The flag was adopted in October of 48 during the War of Independence. Israel was fighting for its life. The shadow of the Holocaust hung over every battlefield. No one was certain the new state of Israel would emerge victorious. No one. Our people had experienced so much death and so much unspeakable persecution. For the Holocaust survivors fighting the war, in tens of thousands came to Israel. There was literally no place to go. I imagine what it must have been like for the Holocaust survivors living in Israel to see this new flag flying in cities and towns and kibbutzim. It was a flag with one Jewish star in the middle, bold and simple, a unitary statement. After 2,000 years of exile, we had returned to our homeland, and we would never again let it go. It proclaimed that we were no longer the object of history, a people without power, repositioned by others. We became the actors of a history that we chose for ourselves, exercising our self-determination. We were transformed into mobilized participants with agency and decision-making power. This flag represented so much pride and hope. And as the flag flew, and as we stood by it, it came to represent not just the struggles of the early Zionists, not just the survival of Jews after the Holocaust. It came to represent power, tenacity. This admiration would be magnified after the Six-Day War, but the point of origin was the War of Independence. My quiet hope is that Jews everywhere remember this nascent period in the life of this flag and the people who, in that moment, had little else but the dream of independence. The phoenix rise of the Jewish people is sewn into the fabric of this historic flag. But we also have to acknowledge and wonder what the future generations will imagine looking at the flag when they pull it out. No matter what year it is, the reality of October 7th will remain part of the experience of looking at this flag. And if honesty has any value at all, we are required to say with enormous sadness that this flag has sometimes flown in places, declaring something that is inimical to our sense of what it represented when it was adopted in 1948. That we are a people of power and resolution and tenacity, a people with extraordinary military might. That shadow can obscure the deepest meaning of this flag and the people who died defending it. When this time capsule that I'm dreaming about, this metaphorical capsule, opens again, I hope the Star of David on a field of blue and white will have come to represent once again the best efforts of the Jewish people to bring peace and justice, innovation and creativity to the world. We know what it's like to fall and to hurt. We also know what it means to rise to the occasion, to be strong and assertive and merciful and wise. The last item in my time capsule, candles. Got a yard site candle, got Shabbat candles, got a Havdalah candle, and of course, some Hanukkah candles. Here they are. They all serve different purposes, but they express the same thing. Our ability to create moments of sacred time when the world falls away and we discover the oasis in the desert. The sacred is a particular space carved out of something more than the thrum of routine. It's quiet, radiant, a zone of real light. It needs to be free of screen of any sort or pocket TVs, no distractions or shopping lists. When we light any one of these candles, we're proclaiming our faith that there is more to life than acquisition and progress, than running the race toward a dubious goal line. The light banishes darkness. It provides a way to see something more than the here and now. In sacred space, we can see all the way from the cosmic microwave background to the end of time itself. I think in many ways the candles are the most important part of this capsule, really. Just in terms of all the different aspects of our lives and what those represent. We are in a period right now, and I don't know about you, but sometimes I get this feeling like when I was a kid and I really wanted that nightlight. Please just leave the door open a little bit. I need some light. I need some light. And so when this capsule of ours might open, my prayer is there are Jews who will see what's inside and they will be inspired by what we want to bequeath to them. That through space and time and love, that they might still cherish the possibility of sacred moments where we stand with each other in our radiant power, create islands of communion in the tumult of our lives. If you think about it, really, none of these candles, not for Shabbat, not for Havdalah, not for Hanukkah, not when we're observing a yard site, none of these are really for us to be alone. It's to be gathered with other people, to share the light together, to feel the light. Well, I hope we can avoid that disappointment in a time capsule syndrome. I might plant this time capsule. You know, we've planted 2 Beth Avodah. Can't find either one. We tried. God knows we tried. You might remember a couple years ago we were digging deep. And Ezekiel was positive. We put it right by the administrative door. I don't know how many feet we dug down, but we got kind of close to the core of the earth. But still, we couldn't find it. But God knows we did try. We really did. But so we could, or maybe I'll just put it behind my couch in my office. That'll be a good place to hide it for years. But you know, it's not a personal time capsule. It belongs to all of us as a community gathering to celebrate a new year and give thanks to the universe for making a place for the Jews. It's a literal way to pay it forward, to share our common hope that it's all l'dor v'dor, passed from one generation to the next, and even to those who were here before us, in whatever way such an impossible thing could happen. But if it's missing anything, it's missing you. So here's my invitation. During lunch today, dinner, when you're driving home, just ask the question to each other in the car. What would you put in your time capsule? What would you want to put in there? Maybe you don't like the matzah. I don't know, but whatever you would like to put in, what would it be? Nothing cute, nothing too specific or idiosyncratic, no snapshots of the dog, and no CD from Kali Minogue, or for that matter, please, with all due respect, and I'm going to get in big trouble for this, keep the Taylor Swift stuff out. Sorry. Choose something that you would want to exemplify your faith and place your life in a distant future. I'm looking for the hopeful messages of continuity, that no matter what happens, there will be Jews on earth to unearth our time capsule and be reassured. I want them to feel that they have come from people who took themselves seriously and sought their best Jewish selfhood. They understood what it took to flourish as a people. I want them to be reminded that their lives are precious because they are part of the chain of our tradition, that we never gave up, and neither should they. Amen.